Welcome to this special episode of the CT for World Social Work Week. Daniel, introduce yourself.
Hello, my name's Daniel. I am 28 and I am a residential social worker. I work with children.
And Daniel, you're here for a very special reason because you were diagnosed.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about, well, you were diagnosed with cancer, should I say?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what that was like and how long ago that was.
Yeah, so I'm 28 now. I think we were just speaking about that time before. It's scary how long ago that was. So 12 years I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma on the 23rd of October 2012. So we're coming up to, what's that, 12, 13 years, nearly 13 years.
October, 13 years.
It'll actually be 12 years in about the 12th of May that I had my last session.
Wow.
But yeah, it was a massive scare for me, obviously being so young, really healthy, really fit, playing football, had the right sort of objectives, and yeah, my whole sort of life came crashing down quite quickly when it was.
Because if I remember, you were playing football like the Saturday before you went in to get like tested and stuff like that. Like your body was pretty much still able to do everything. You were still pushing yourself. You were quite fatigued in school.
Yeah, there was just like I just noticed being that way a bit more tired after football, and not maybe being able to do the same things. But in terms of health wise, I didn't really notice anything differently. And then, like you said, I actually woke up the next day about to go to football and noticed a massive lump on my neck. Took the A&E and then kept overnight, and before I know it, I was diagnosed with cancer.
And I don't know if you ever remember this, but you were the first teenager that we ever supported in the Ulster Hospital in Dundonald.
Yeah, no.
You remember that?
Yeah, no, I do. And like I said, I can remember looking around, and the age group was quite a like, and it wasn't even like there was like adults; it was older adults. You know, it was elderly people. So it was a wee bit more difficult watching them elderly people, but without blowing too much smoke up your whole seven, you were absolutely fantastic. And the things that Click Sergeant put in for me during that time, like, was like, I can't speak highly enough of it. And again, just seeing those sort of aspects and how much the social worker changed and that sort of stereotype of social work, taking children away, that was not the case and not my experience. My first experience of social work was yourself, was obviously Click Sergeant doing that, and just how much support I felt during that. It was, I couldn't really speak highly enough of it.
Thinking back now, if you can, because I don't know what I was doing 12 years ago, but can you remember what that looked like whenever I'd come in? Or even did I see you in the hospital for the first time, or was it out at home?
Yeah, no, you actually came out to the house the first time. It was very, I think I'd actually declined.
You did?
I think I declined the first couple of times. I think I actually initially declined in the hospital, and then you'd went above and beyond, I must say, to sort of get me in terms of interacting. I think I was just down in the dumps. It was depression. Like, that's genuinely what it was. I was very outgoing. I would have spoken to anybody, but I didn't want anything to do with anybody. And it wasn't that because it was a social worker. It was just I didn't want to speak to anybody. And you came out to the house. I remember my mum saying to you, and from that moment, I think it's almost bridging that gap as well. You need to sort of just bridge that gap and be able to, and just actually having someone to speak to about, and like yourself, someone who'd actually experienced it and been through something similar. It was massive for me. But no, I'll actually never forget that day. Now that you just sitting in my living room and actually being introduced to yourself.
I remember your house. I remember your street. I remember your living room looks like. I can see it in my mind and stuff like that. But what I also remember was the little scared boy that I came out to that house. You were 16, or probably only just turned 16 if I remember correctly. And as you say, I think you were one chemo into your treatment at that stage. But and I just remember it was like a deer in headlights. I didn't really know what to be thinking or feeling and stuff like that. But there was a wee sense of anger, I think, at the same time too.
Yeah, no, definitely. I angered the world, to be honest, because, like, you're 16, you've just turned 16. Like, I wasn't smoking, like, I wasn't a drinker. I went to school, I did what I needed to do. I thought I had a balanced diet, I played football, I had a good friendship group, I had a good family. And then all of a sudden, there's no, like, you always think of ailments like, sort of cancer, there's usually like something linked to it, but that's another thing I would say to anyone, anybody can get cancer. Anybody at any point in any term, at any point of your life, but it's just about, taking those sort of, the likes of Click Sergeant, or the supports that you have, because, it really, really helps.
Yeah. And what do you remember of what your treatment was like?
I remember I was saying to you there, I can remember the first 3 months, so it must have been, I was getting sessions every fortnight, so a Friday morning, every fortnight, every 2 weeks. I remember the first 3 or 4 sessions. I can actually remember the first one I got. I tried to go to football, and I was allowed to train, but I was told I couldn't play football matches because of insurance reasons, because of my pick line and stuff.
Yeah.
So that was another bit of a deterrent for me. I think that was another thing that just brought me down even more. But in terms of, I actually felt really well. Like it took about 3 or 4 sessions before I started to feel sick. But then, like I was saying to you, the last 3 months I don't really remember. Like I remember being really ill, needing the syringe driver, and then obviously the point where your hair and stuff goes. I think that's whenever it hits home, and that took a month or two, and then all of a sudden you wake up and you've got no hair. So like that's definitely one of the massive ones for me. But then you've got your other things, wearing hats. You're able to be, clever around doing that. But yeah, the last 3 months it was really difficult. It was really difficult. And I think the likes of yourself and even Lisa would like to, shout out the nurses up in the hospital were doing me things like we talked about the time fastics.
Yeah.
We were trying to be clever in ways to stop me from being sick whenever I was getting
as I
chemo.
said, we still do that till today. Sometimes I would even bring different smelly bottles or even car fresheners that are really strong, that are really citrusy or really orangey, or sometimes like vanilla and stuff. Because sometimes the kind of science or the research around it would say, like, if you can confuse the senses, then it confuses the tastes and it changes up. You couldn't just have the same orange smell the whole way through it, because 3 years later, when you finish your treatment, you smell an orange. The next minute you're going to throw up. So, but you did have what we know now as anticipatory anxiety, which is this kind of trauma-related experience of when you knew you were coming to the hospital. The next time you were coming to the hospital, your body started to react. Your mind started to say, "We didn't like this last time." Sometimes people are consciously aware of it and sometimes they're not. You got it really bad, like to the point where you were like throwing up the morning off your chemos and stuff like that.
I actually refused. I remember, I think it was my 7th. I was halfway through. I remember saying to the nurse I didn't want to do it anymore. I'd actually refused at that point to take any more treatment, and obviously I was going to back into it, but that's how bad it got that I was at that point willing to just not let any more chemo happen.
And I don't know if you know, but you actually paved the way for the Ulster Hospital to then have one of the first adolescent young adult, or TYA, nurses put into Northern Ireland, which was Lisa. You already knew, because she was a hematology nurse specialist.
She actually put my pick line in, and
that was almost your experience, in the fact that you were getting chemo in that hospital and there wasn't a dedicated nurse specialist, was what led to Teenage Cancer Trust and the Southeastern Trust putting in the post, because more young people like yourself were being treated in the hospitals.
And it's really nice to hear, because even hearing the things like my pack was like what you'd probably give an elderly lady who was, or an elderly man, like it was very basic. It was what they expect. It was very much just manuals of what to go through. Hearing what you were sort of saying now, where there's wee packs with sort of tasters or smellers, things that actually really help. It's just the small things that really, really help.
Yeah. The packs now, so you would have got something you could probably have like held up a table leg with.
Literally a big blue packaging thing, like envelope.
Which I would say probably not many people. It goes into a drawer and nobody really.
I still have it.
Do you
have it? Yeah.
Should really stop hoarding. But now the packs we give out have like a binder for people to keep all of their letters and stuff in. There's a mood light in case you're an inpatient, you want to be able to control your lighting in your room, a water bottle, a notebook, tissues, chewing gum, caps, like to put underneath the baseball cap so it doesn't pull on your hair, satin pillowcases, all things that people now have like came to the entry and said, this really worked for me. We start to kind of create those into a pack that everyone gets now.
So that's fantastic.
Including Haribo Tank Fantastic.
I think that's class. I really do.
So at what stage then did you think, right, I'm going to choose social work as a career or that as a degree?
Do you know what? I think we spoke about it, and it was another thing I declined initially, was the Ellen MacArthur sailing trip that we went on, which was honestly breathtaking, life experience, life-changing, genuinely life-changing. And that was an experience where we'd met people around the UK, went on a sailing trip around Southampton with other teenagers who had cancer, am I right saying? Fantastic, absolutely fantastic opportunity. And there's a few social workers there, am I right in saying, that was supporting over, and genuinely from the moment I stepped off that boat, I'd said to myself, and I remember going home and saying to my mum, I wanted to do social work. Wanted to be a social worker. I just wanted to have that experience that I felt to give to other people. And whether that's in the field of working with children with cancer or adult with cancer in a different field, just that same hope,
Yeah.
and giving them the same hope and being able to go through life
Yeah.
no matter what sort of difficulties and challenges they have.
So would you have been about 18? Would you have been going to do university at the same time as people, or were you a bit delayed?
Yeah, 17. So like I had a full year, full 12 months. 17, turned 17, pretty much just about starting to grow my hair and stuff back, starting to feel like me again. I actually went through a bit of depression after. I think I did CBT. You'd helped me out a lot with that. And then I just came round. That Ellen MacArthur, like I said, that trip really helped me just spring back into life.
Yeah.
I always say I actually felt like I just created a new person inside of me.
I think your
And
mom
then,
actually said to me that when you came back from the trip was, thank you for giving me back my son.
yeah,
Because I think you came back to the person you were before.
100%, and I felt like genuinely, and that's why for anyone who does get to the point, it's difficult through different parts of the stages of going through treatment. I thought for me, genuinely, one of the most difficult parts was after, was finishing it, and my sort of aspect was I was seeing people in that ward who maybe weren't coming out of the ward, but I was coming out of the ward. So my sort of aspect was I was watching other people with cancer dying, but I was able to actually succeed. So like for me, I just had that survivor's guilt. Remember we sort of spoke about that. But I was able to get over that and channel that in a way that, okay, that happened to me, maybe it hasn't happened to other people, but how can I help other people and support them in a way that I have been able to do so? And then 18, went to tech, didn't actually get out. I remember who drove me. I actually think we went to Derry, did we?
We did. Yeah, we went to McGee.
Yes, that is right. You drove me the whole way to Derry. Absolutely crapping myself. Unfortunately, didn't pass the interview that time. Didn't faze me. Went to tech, and then 19 went back, done the interview in Queens, and actually got offered Queens or Derry, and I chose to go to Derry. And I honestly haven't looked back ever since. I was saying to you, there is fields in social work that are difficult, but one of the things that going through cancers taught me is resilience, and it's built skills. Like we were talking about it before, 22-year-old social worker. Do you know what I mean? I qualified at 22. I've had a lot of people turn around to me through the sort of field and say that's very young and people should have more experience, but everyone's taught differently, and everyone, especially someone that has went through cancer and has had the resilience to go through that, go for it, do whatever life tells you to do. And if that's social work, you've got half the skills already.
So do you think that having had cancer at such an early age, gone through that adversity, built and learnt resilience, and also had to kind of fight to get back your life back on track, is what made you, or has made you, a good social worker today?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Obviously, there's more to it, but for example, if I didn't have cancer, if I didn't have a social worker like yourself, if I didn't have nurses, if I didn't have people in Clicksargent in the hospital who supported me, it might have went differently. But the fact that I had such positive experiences with yourselves definitely guided me in thinking, this is something I want to do. In terms of actually going through it and being at the bottom of like feeling so low, like I think there is nothing better than helping someone whenever you can turn around to them and say, I actually know how you feel. Do you know what I mean? Whenever people who, and this is no offense to anybody that have went through life, without any sort of adversities or any sort of real crises, maybe don't have that same level of empathy for someone who's gone through it. So for me, I think it's just helped me be able to be calm and composed and just know what it's like for someone who's in a crisis. And because I've been through it, I feel like I can sort of help someone through that, whether that's a cancer diagnosis or bereavement. You can use the skills in every way.
Do you think, because you described what it was like when I came out to the house and how you actually turned me down, which I'm used to at this stage, do you take that memory and that experience into how you practice your social work now when you meet somebody for the first time?
Yeah, 100%. Sometimes I actually try not to tell people I'm a social worker because of that stereotype. There's such a stereotype around social work, and I would be at the very top of trying to judge that and stop that sort of judgment of it because it's so untrue. It's so untrue. And I think it's very interesting, and I don't think about it enough, with the fact that I did not want anything to do with you at the start. It was nothing to do with my adversities in social work, that was just at that point I didn't want anyone. I didn't want anyone to speak to. So what I've learned from that is to be creative. So there's times in my own personal or work experience where a young person has declined to engage. But by going through and watching what you did, innovative, creative, actually being human, humorous, has taught me, and I've adopted them skills and hopefully use them well. Well, don't know if the young people I work with would say that, but I would like to think.
I mean, if they engaged, it clearly worked.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, it's taught me so many different ways and loads of different qualities that I know for a fact. If I didn't have cancer within the social work, I wouldn't have had the same sort of experience.
Do you think you would have chose social work as a career had you not? No. What were you? Was it football? Did you want a profession?
Yeah, but I feel like it definitely wasn't good enough. So I feel like the light would have hit probably 17, 18. Honestly, Simon, I do not know what I would have done.
Right. Okay.
I always talked about like the army and stuff. I don't think I would have went to the army. I think I would have ended up pretty stuck. Probably doing IT or something, but not really having that sort of. I've always been wanting a goal in life and having something that I can work towards. I didn't have that. But after obviously the experience of cancer and stuff, my goal was I know what it's like to feel really rubbish, to not have support, and to go through a crisis in life. And I also know what it's like to have almost the best support and how amazing that can be to actually channel you into a new person. And that's what I try and do and mirror that for other people to work with.
I think the fact that you're able to do that in residential is probably much more harder than if I was doing it in my job, because the power dynamic sits very much in the residential unit, in yours, because that young person is in your facility. Whereas when I came out to your house, that was in order to balance that part, because I could have saw you in the hospital on your chemo day, but sure, you wouldn't have been able to leave the room. You were connected to a chemo bag. So what was the point? And I wasn't going to build a relationship with you based on that power imbalance, which is sort of the reason why I always like to do home visits very early on. It also gave me a better insight into you and your family and everybody else, because you were sitting on the sofa in clothes that you were comfortable with your mum next door, trying to make tea and stuff like that. So whereas you're having to do it much harder because you're having to do it in a unit where people are coming to it. Now that you're 6 years qualified?
6 years, 6 years.
What have you learned about social work now, and what is the next stage for you in your practice?
Yeah, for me, social work again challenging that stereotype that all social workers, go into houses and take children away from their families. That is not true. I would consistently say that. I do think after COVID and stuff, there's a lot changing, a lot with society. But for me, I went into social work to change that. And I'm 6 years in. I have tried to go and progress through the band 7 managerial role. Didn't succeed, but I'll continue. So for me, the goal is to actually go as high up as I can to influence a more positive relationship between society and social workers. And whether that's in residential, whether that's in hospital, or with young people with cancer, whatever it is, I hope to be able to create a standpoint that can be replicated in all services and all. And talk as if I'm going to go to Prime Minister level, but even those small aspects in your service, if you can change, and like just listening to what you said, that was literally like if you were to say that in a social work class, like that is it, and nail on the head. But sometimes people are looking at the theories and are looking at the more sort of practical side of things. Half the time it's about being a human, and it's about going off your own life experiences, and sometimes thinking, okay, I'm going to go into someone's house, or I'm going to actually invade in someone's life. How would that make me feel, or how would I like someone to do that if I was in their situation? I don't think I would have had that mindset if I didn't have 6 years social work. It's taught me so much. It's taught me to be kind as well, and to realize that there's so many people going through so many different adversities. I hope the more people do, we need more social workers. We really do. We need social workers, but we need people who are genuinely coming into the career to want to make a change. It's a career that you want to help people. You're going to be working with people who are going to be going through hard times, but you're also going to be working with people who can be going through good times. And sometimes the smallest of wins can take, can be the smallest wins to you, can be an absolute massive change in someone's life. So I hope that I can definitely at some point in my career work with children with cancer. I've said to you before, I felt when I initially, it's probably still a wee bit too difficult for me at the minute, just because it's still very live for me at that aspect of it. I just think I would almost be wanting to give them everything. I would be going so above and beyond, to the point that would probably be unprofessional. I would need to be like, do you know what I mean? Because, and I think that's about me, but that's also me realizing, do you know what I mean? Like that's another thing that cancer's taught me, and just being able to make me reflect and actually look a wee bit more deeper into life. But yeah, it's taught me so much. It's helped me understand as well my feelings about cancer, and do you know why I felt so upset and how I was able to get through that. And also, again, like I said, being able to experience someone like yourself, a social worker who can actually do a really good job in what to do. And that, for example, again, if I got maybe a social worker who I found rude or different, that might have set my aspect in social work, but I had a really good influence and positive experience of it. So that's really helped me.
Did you find, or have you found, that the reflectiveness that's in social work as a profession aided, or did you already come to the reflectiveness of being a social worker, as in the reflective practice and supervision and stuff? Do you find, because you process a lot of the cancer trauma or the cancer experience, because you talked about survivorship guilt, that led to you being more engaged in the reflectiveness?
100%. Like, see the term reflecting, I would never have used that. However, I do feel like even before cancer and stuff, I would have been a deep thinker. I would have thought about things. That's a different way of looking at, reflecting. I feel like after cancer, I wasn't able to reflect. I was very stuck. During it, I was able to reflect. The first 3-4 months, I felt like I was able to sort of rationalize it. Okay, I'm 16. This is cancer. I've been told that there's a good chance that I'll get through it, that I will live. Yeah, it's going to be difficult, but I can go for it. And then as things progressed, that sort of level of being able to have that insight, to reflect on it and sort of go, right, this is it, just completely went. The whole rational thinking completely went. And it said, I actually forget the last 2 to 3 months of my treatment, apart from the time fasting thing. And I think that was just my whole brain sort of desensitizing the difficulty of it. Now, like, as years have gone on and on and on, I've been able to think more about that. But I do feel like going through cancer helped me learn to think through my own life things and how, but the whole social work degree, I continue to still look back at that and think of wee things that went, okay, that's actually probably why I felt like that. And that's maybe why today I'm maybe a bit more calm in this situation. But also knowing like your own sort of triggers as well is very important. I'd mentioned there, I'm not ready to probably work with children with cancer. I mean, I might be able to more so with adults, but just because, but my sort of, I just want to take them home and look after them, and just, it's such a difficult experience, and especially for families as well.
I think, I don't know if anyone ever gets to the stage where they know that they can go in and do this sort of work, because there's always going to be that thought in the back of your head of, I don't know if I could go back into this world that you have spent so long out of now. But at the same time too, there's so much, like before we were recording this, you said about how you might get a swelling of a lymph node and now it doesn't affect you. But we see that every day, every year, people a couple of years post-treatment are feeling the flare up of their health anxiety when they get a cold or the flu, particularly around flu season and stuff like that. You bring that no other social worker like me brings, having not had chemo, or that diagnosis. So there's so much that you can bring to this role. And actually, it popped into my head as you were talking. I think I sent you a job at one stage.
You did.
It was in Glasgow.
You actually did.
Moved to Glasgow.
You really did. Yeah.
I did. But I wouldn't rule it out. Like I would definitely be saying that you've so much to bring to this sort of work, hospital social work or young lives versus cancer, and working with young people. I do think that your niche is teens. I definitely think that you've got that kind of creativity and that spontaneity to innovation to go, I know how to get that 14-year-old or that 17-year-old to stop kicking off.
100%. So. But no, like you said, I would, and I do 100% see myself working with children with cancer. But I feel like at the minute, and before going, like with my mum, sort of lost my mum a couple of years ago, so it's having that sort of ability there to be adaptive and knowing that it's not that I don't feel like I could do it, it's more that it would probably be, and it's not that it's because it's a difficult job, it's just because it's so home for me. It's so home for me. Like going through that experience with another person, I feel like I could really could support them, and I could do that still. And for anybody that sees this, and again, I would be open to anyone for a chat in any description, but just going through that whole sort of motion for me would bring back a lot of stuff. And again, it does. It's still, you know, still to this day, like cancer would impact me, and still like maybe hearing a certain stories or hearing like it still would, but doing things like this is my sort of way of giving it back, because I would like I do. I feel like I've so much I can give to, especially teenagers that have been through something like this, and why I would again advocate and encourage them, if social work is what they do, 110% go for it. Definitely go for it. And like you'd said about the check-in and stuff, after what, a year or two, I was checking everything. I was checking everywhere. If I had any sort of ailment, it was GP. I want blood tests. I want scans. Over the past 2, 3, 4 years, I've really been able to delve deeper. I was showing Simon actually of a bit of a mark that I used to get whenever I actually was diagnosed. It's like psoriasis in my legs. I used to freak out. Literally, I would have freaked out if that happened. Now I think I've just built that sort of resilience again, but also through helping people, like through the social work sort of qualification, like watching people who also in a different aspect, who maybe got a mental illness, and are maybe find that really difficult to understand, to get through. And maybe when something flares up for them, they maybe go straight to the GP or go like that, whenever there's other ways of managing it and supporting it. So yeah, like there's so much, you could sit here for hours and go through all the different aspects of it. But yeah, it's just to remind people that just be within yourselves and don't get too panicked and speak to someone. There's nothing better than speaking to someone that you feel supported with.
Yeah, sure. If you could give advice to somebody who's about to come and do the social work career, thinking about doing social work, what would it be?
Go for it. Yeah, like why not? Have a think about it. For me, genuinely, if you're thinking about doing social work, you're looking into that sort of caring, and you're looking to do some sort of caring background, you've got social work or you've got nursing, go for either or. For me, I went for social work because I enjoy that socialize. Like for me, it was socializing. It was society. It was social. Looking at how we can change, how we make life better.
If you could describe social work in one word, what would it be?
Social work in one word.
Maybe two if you need it, but one word.
Flip that. That's. I've got a word in my head, but talking more about like power, but it's not so much. Like for me, relationships.
Nice.
Genuinely, someone said to me about social work and what would be your most key aspect and the most important aspect to relationships.
Yeah.
Being able to build positive relationships, being able to have negative relationships, but also be able to understand why they're negative and work through them. Life isn't always positive.
Yeah.
For me, relationships, going through life, even whenever you're walking down the street and it's not someone you have a relationship with, be nice, be kind.
Yeah.
If we all lived life being nice and being kind and living on a sort of morals where we can build relationships, whether they're positive or negative, we can just go through life without having any real adversity. But yeah, for me, social work's all about building positive relationships.
Deep.
You put me on the spot, but
I was
talking about it.
For everyone. Nice. Well, thank you very much for today.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. And for anyone, again, go for it. Go for social work and Click Sergeant. Can't speak highly enough of them. And to be a process and watching for me 12 years to see how they've grown, it's fantastic. And I can just imagine in the next 12 years how much more it's going to grow.
Yeah, sure.